Today we're going to be talking about a former baseball star who publicly revealed that his teammate had cancer against his teammate's wishes because he wanted more people to pray for healing, the woman who drove her car into what she thought was a Jewish school, only later to realize that it belonged to an anti-Semitic hate group, why people are so mad about the leaked pages from the Nashville shooter's manifesto, and Mr. Beast and how he's being accused of being a white savior, and much more. So let's get you in the loop. Alright, so this story is pretty wild. So, a former baseball player revealed on his podcast last month that his former teammate has been fighting brain cancer, seemingly without his teammate's knowledge or consent. Here's what he said.
You remember the knuckleballer is sick. And I talked with Doug Mirabelli yesterday, and this is not a message that Tim has asked anyone to share, and I don't even know if he wants it shared. But as a Christian and as a man of faith, I've seen prayer work, and so I'm going to talk about it. Recently, Tim was diagnosed with a very serious, very aggressive form of brain cancer. The situation in Tim's case is incredibly serious, and he went in and had surgery. I remember when I was sick, the things that happened to me and the people that reached out to me, it was always a good thing. Always made my heart feel good to know that someone that I hadn't spoken to was still thinking of me. And I wanted to say and do this for that reason.
So following his podcast, some people immediately began to start praying for his teammate, with others, of course, scolding him for releasing private information without his teammate's consent. And as expected, his comments brought tons of controversy, not only to the privacy violation, but also towards Christians and about Christians forcing their views on others against their will. And so this prompts us to ask a question similar to the one that we asked last week when we talked about the abortion clinic. The question is, when are well-meaning Christians just going too far? I'd love to hear your thoughts about all of this down below in the comments. And then possibly one of the most ironic sequences of events that we've seen in a while, a 34-year-old woman in Indiana allegedly drove her car into a building because she thought that it was an Israel school, according to police. The press release stated that she told one officer that she has been watching the news and couldn't breathe anymore. It also said that she referred to her people back in Palestine. She said that she passed by a couple times and saw the Israel school and later stated, "Yes, I did it on purpose." Now, there was one adult and 4 children inside of the building, but thankfully nobody was injured. They were probably just really confused. And she was probably confused as well, since the first people that she saw inside were black. The reason why is because little did she know, the building that she hit wasn't a Jewish school at all, but instead it was run by the Black Hebrew Israelites. Now, there's a lot that we could say about the Israelites, but according to this article, the building is associated with radical Hebrew Israelites, a group the Southern Poverty Law Center has designated a hate group, the Indianapolis Star reported. The center says the group's ideology has become increasingly anti-Semitic, anti-white, anti-LGBTQ, xenophobic, and misogynistic since the 1960s. The Anti-Defamation League describes the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge as an extreme and anti-Semitic sect of Black Hebrew Israelites who believe that they are the only true BHI group because of ties to early organizations. So, ironically, her dislike for Jewish people caused her to drive her car into the building, but the building was owned by the Black Hebrew Israelites who don't like the Jews either. So, this entire situation is pretty wild. And when it comes to the Black Hebrew Israelites, I'll link a couple videos down below if you want to learn more, but let's just say that I've had some pretty shady interactions with them in the past. And speaking of shady, a lot of people think that there's some shady stuff going on when it comes to the Nashville shooter's manifesto that was just leaked. Police have said since the day of the Covenant School massacre that the suspect left behind a manifesto and other writings, but the contents of the material was kept sealed by investigators. The images of 3 pages of writing began circulating on social media on Monday after they were posted on the website of the podcast Louder with Crowder, which claimed to have exclusively obtained the photos. Within hours of the shooting, Police Chief John Drake had identified the suspect as Audrey Elizabeth Hale, a 28-year-old former student of the school, who the chief described as a transgender person. It soon emerged that Hale had been going by the name Aiden and using male pronouns on social media in the months prior before the shooting. Drake at the time said Hale had been under a doctor's care for an emotional disorder, had amassed a collection of guns, and might have harbored some resentment for having to attend the Covenant School as a child. But police never offered a conclusive motive. A lot of people believe that this entire situation is a little bit sus because not only did the suspect identify as a transgender and intentionally target a Christian school, but in the pages leaked by Crowder, the shooter was using a lot of anti-white slurs and rhetoric. So this led people to suspect that the information was being intentionally suppressed due to the shooter's statements not fitting the narrative. Now, when it comes to things like this, I personally like to reserve judgment until we have all of the information and get the full picture, and I don't know if there's a good reason or not until we hear the reason why they chose to stall the release of these documents for so long. But nonetheless, it's being alleged that the shooter was upset with Christians due to their stance on the transgender issue, and she felt judged by the Christians in going to that school in her younger years. All of this information comes from a third-party source that we're not able to confirm yet. But if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, and we'll keep you on the loop as the story continues to develop. And if you haven't heard by now, politician Rashida Tlaib was formally censored last week for her comments about the Israel war. And this is kind of a big deal because she's only the 26th member of the House to ever be censored in history. Now, if you don't know what a censor is, a censor, according to the US House, is a form of rebuke that registers the House's deep disapproval of member misconduct that nonetheless does not meet the threshold for expulsion. Generally, a censor is a condemnation of a member's actions, statements, or a combination of the two. And in her defense, Talib says that she was only criticizing the Israeli government and Prime Minister Netanyahu. She also said, "I can't believe I have to say this, but Palestinian people are not disposable. We are human beings, just like anyone else." However, several Republicans, including Rich McCormick, gave 3 reasons for why she was censored. The first is false statements made on X, formerly known as Twitter, involving the bombing of the Arab hospital and her use of the slogan, "From the river to the sea, Palestinians will be free," which has historically been known as a call for the destruction of the State of Israel, and also for promoting false narratives about Hamas's brutal October 7th attack on Israel. Now, in fairness, Talib is of Palestinian descent and wants to halt the fighting in Gaza and the death of Palestinian citizens, which is something that I think that all of us want. The only debate is whether or not such an action is feasible and won't compromise the state of Israel as a whole. But still, many are still skeptical about what she really wants because she does have a bit of a history of making what many believe to be anti-Semitic comments. In an interview with Yahoo in 2019, she said, "There's always a kind of calming feeling I tell folks when I think of the Holocaust and the tragedy of the Holocaust and the fact that it was my ancestors, Palestinians, who lost their land, and some lost their lives, their livelihood, their human dignity, their existence in many ways, have been wiped out in some people's passports." So the question that a lot of people are debating right now is whether or not it's right for her to be censored and that she should be allowed to have the freedom to speak against a foreign government even if they're our allies. So do you think that she should be able to speak freely concerning this issue? Or is there a line that she as an American representative can't cross? Let me know what you think. And of course, we got to talk about this crazy Mr. Beast situation. So Mr. Beast has been getting tons of heat after he published a video last week where he built 100 wells across Africa. Mr. Beast, also known as Jimmy Donaldson, initiated an ambitious project to fund the construction of 100 wells across Africa to provide clean drinking water to an estimated 500,000 people across several African communities like Cameroon, Somalia, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. Alongside this initiative, an associated fundraiser has successfully generated over $300,000 to aid local water assistance organizations. And perhaps it shouldn't even shock us at this point, but his video was met with a lot of online criticism. And it seems that he might have expected it because shortly after releasing the video, he made a tweet saying, "I already know I'm going to get canceled because I upload a video helping people, and to be 100% clear, I don't care. I'm always going to use my channel to help people and try to inspire my audience to do the same." And he was right about that first part because he did get a lot of criticism. An aspiring Kenyan politician criticized Donaldson's video, saying on X that it perpetuated the stereotype that Africa is dependent on handouts. The founder of Face Africa expressed a mix of frustration and understanding, stating, "I've been doing this for 15 years, but we've been struggling to continue the work because funding, awareness, and advocacy all take work. Overnight, this person comes along, who happens to be a white male figure with a huge platform, and all of a sudden, he gets all the attention. It's kind of frustrating, but it's also understanding the nature of how the world is." And another Twitter user said, "Mr. Beast's 100 wells is disrespect to Africans. He described the entire Africa as a village with its people living in huts. He projected that all Africans lack good drinking water wells in 2023 is offensive. Why not boreholes or pipe-borne water? Africans do not need water donation. We ain't that poor and thirsty. Africa is a continent with 54 countries. He must be specific to where he went." And by the way, he was pretty specific in the video. "This is capitalism. He want to low-key use these countries for profit. He has set Africans for global ridicule by building wells we never asked them for." And lastly, the video also resurfaced a lot of common criticisms that we've seen about Mr. Beast lately, saying that he was just trying to make a profit off of the struggle of Africans. But at the end of his video, he made it clear that he wasn't making a dime off of the video and was donating all of the money made towards building more wells all around the world. As we discover more and more each week, no matter what you do, you're gonna tick off people online. And it's because of this that I'd rather see people like Mr. Beast ticking people off by bringing more aid to people in need, rather than ticking people off for dancing on Satan's lap in a music video. And by the way, as Christians, we should also stand in support of helping the poor, since we're called to care for the poor, just as God did in the Old Testament, as well as the New Testament. But out of all of the stories that we talked about today, which did you find to be the most insane and why? Let me know down below, and do me a favor and hit the like button on your way out so that way we know to keep making videos like this. All right? See you guys next week.